The Deep Space Patrol ship Stargazer drifted silently through the darkness at the edge of human space. Commander James Walker stood at the bridge's main viewport, his weathered face reflecting off the reinforced glass. 20 years of space patrol had taught him to trust his gut. And right now, his gut was screaming that something wasn't right. "Sir, sensors are picking up an anomaly at bearing 047, reported Tom Evans from his station. The young officer's fingers danced across his console, bringing up more detailed readings. "It's big, whatever it is." Walker turned from the viewport, his boots making soft sounds against the deck plating. "Define big, Lieutenant." "Bigger than anything we've got in the fleet, sir." Initial readings suggest it's nearly 4 kilometers in length. A low whistle escaped Walker's lips. The largest ships in the United Earth Defense Fleet barely reached 1 kilometer. He walked over to Evans' station, studying the preliminary scans. The object was holding position, showing no signs of movement or power emissions. "Get us closer, but maintain safe distance." "Full sensor sweep," Walker ordered. He activated the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is the commander. Battle stations, this is not a drill." Red warning lights bathed the corridors in their dull glow as crew members rushed to their posts. Walker watched as the Stargazer's tactical officer, Lisa Green, brought the ship's weapons online. Better safe than sorry in unexplored space. As they drew closer, the massive shape began to take form on their viewing screens. What they saw made every person on the bridge stop and stare. It was unmistakably a warship, but unlike anything they'd ever encountered. Its hull was angular and aggressive, covered in what appeared to be weapon ports and launch tubes. But what caught Walker's attention wasn't its size or its obvious military purpose. It was the markings on its hull. "Those are English letters," Green said, her voice barely above a whisper. Walker leaned forward, squinting at the enhanced image. There, clear as day on the ship's hull, was writing in standard Earth English. "UES PARADOX 2947. "That's impossible," Evans muttered. "That's 490 years in the future." Walker felt a chill run down his spine. The year was 2457, and they were looking at a ship that claimed to be from 5 centuries ahead of them. Either this was an elaborate hoax, or they were dealing with something far beyond their understanding. "Any power readings?" Walker asked, keeping his voice steady despite the growing unease in his stomach. "Minimal, sir," replied Green. "Life support seems to be functioning at a basic level, but main systems appear to be dormant. No signs of crew, no active weapons, no shields. She's just floating there." Walker made his decision. "Send a detailed report back to Fleet Command. Request immediate support. In the meantime, we're going to take a closer look." He turned to his executive officer, Mike Rogers. "Prepare a boarding team. Full hazard gear, weapons cold but ready. I'll lead the team myself." Rogers began to protest, but Walker cut him off with a raised hand. "This could be first contact, a trap, or something we can't even imagine. I need my best people on this, and I need to see it with my own eyes." An hour later, Walker led a team of 6 through the Stargazer's airlock and into space. Their magnetic boots engaged as they landed on the mysterious vessel's hull. Up close, the ship was even more impressive. The metal beneath their feet was smooth and unmarked, showing no signs of micrometeoroid impacts or space debris, as if it had just left the shipyard. "Engineering, what do you make of this hull material?" Walker asked through his suit's comm. Chief Engineer Roy Thompson ran his scanner over the surface. "Sir, these readings don't make sense. The material composition, it's like nothing in our database. The molecular structure seems to be actively repairing itself. Self-healing metal. In 2457, that's still theoretical. They found an airlock, and surprisingly, it responded to their universal emergency codes." The team exchanged worried glances. How could a ship from the future recognize current emergency protocols? As the airlock cycled, Walker's mind raced with possibilities, none of them comforting. The interior of the ship was dark, illuminated only by their suit lights and occasional strips of emergency lighting along the floor. The corridors were wide enough for 3 people to walk side by side, with ceiling heights that suggested the designers had efficiency in mind rather than comfort. "Atmosphere is breathable," Thompson reported, checking his instruments. "Temperature 18 degrees Celsius, standard pressure. Life supports functioning perfectly." Walker kept his helmet on anyway. "Stay alert. We don't know what automated systems might still be active." They made their way through the ship, following the emergency lighting that seemed to activate just ahead of them, as if the ship was guiding them somewhere. The architecture was clearly human in design, but everything felt advanced, streamlined, evolved. "Commander," called out Security Officer Jack Miller, "you need to see this." They had reached what appeared to be a command center. As they entered, lights flickered on, and holographic displays sprang to life around them. The technology was leagues beyond anything they had, but the layout was intuitive enough that Walker could recognize it as a bridge. "Can anyone read these displays?" Walker asked, studying the holographic text floating in the air. "Sir," Evans said, his voice shaking slightly. "They're in English. Look at this one. It's showing the ship's log. Last entry dated August 15, 2947. Walker approached the main console. As he did, a soft blue light emerged from the ceiling, coalescing into a human-sized hologram. The figure was clearly an artificial intelligence avatar, designed to look like a middle-aged man in a uniform they didn't recognize. "Welcome aboard the UES Paradox," the hologram said, its voice perfectly human. "I've been waiting for you, Commander Walker." The team raised their weapons instinctively, but Walker held up his hand. "At ease," he ordered, though his own heart was racing. "How do you know my name?" The hologram smiled, but there was sadness in its expression. "Because you sent me here, Commander. Or rather, you will send me here. 490 years from now, to be exact." Walker removed his helmet, needing to face this situation with his own eyes. "Explain." "This ship is humanity's last hope," the hologram said. "I am its caretaker, an artificial intelligence tasked with ensuring it arrives at the right time, to the right people. We have much to discuss, Commander, and very little time. Humanity faces an extinction-level threat, and this ship, impossible as it may seem, is here to prevent it." The hologram gestured, and the bridge came fully to life. Screens showed star maps, weapon systems, and technology that made their most advanced ships look primitive in comparison. But what caught Walker's attention was a countdown timer prominently displayed on the main screen. "What is that counting down to?" he asked, dreading the answer. "First contact," the hologram replied grimly, "with an enemy that will nearly destroy humanity, unless we change things here and now." Walker looked at his team, then back at the hologram. Everything they knew about physics, about time, about what was and wasn't possible, had just been thrown out the window. But one thing was clear: they had found something that would change humanity's future forever. "Tell me everything," Walker said, and the hologram nodded, beginning a story that would reshape human history. The hologram's blue light cast strange shadows across the bridge as Commander Walker and his team listened to its explanation. They had been aboard the Paradox for 3 hours now, and each new revelation made Walker's head spin more than the last. "The ship's main computer contains detailed records of our wars with the Swarm," the hologram explained, bringing up terrifying images of massive dark shapes moving between stars. "They're a collective intelligence that spreads through space like a virus, consuming everything in their path." Thompson raised his hand to touch one of the floating images, his fingers passing through the holographic display. "These energy readings are off the scale. Each of these things is the size of a small moon." "Correct," the hologram confirmed. "The Swarm builds their ships by consuming entire planets. In our timeline, humanity wasn't prepared. First contact occurred when they woke from their dormant state in the Carina Nebula. Earth had no warning. Walker paced the bridge, his boots making no sound on the strange metal floor. The ship seemed to absorb all unnecessary noise, making their voices sound oddly isolated. "You mentioned this ship has technology that breaks the laws of physics. Show me." The hologram nodded, and the bridge lights dimmed. New displays appeared, showing schematics of the ship's systems. The Paradox isn't just a warship. It's a testbed for humanity's most advanced technologies. The hull is made of adaptive nanomaterial that can repair itself and change properties based on threats. Our weapons use principles of quantum mechanics that won't be discovered for another 3 centuries. Lisa Green studied the weapon schematics with professional interest. These aren't just guns, are they? They're reality disruption weapons. In simple terms, yes, the hologram agreed. The swarmed ships are virtually indestructible by conventional means, so we learned to bend space itself to destroy them. But the ship's most important feature is its temporal displacement drive. The hologram brought up a new schematic, showing an engine design that made Walker's eyes hurt to look at. Parts of it seemed to exist in multiple places at once, and some components appeared to be moving backward through time. "That's impossible," Thompson whispered, but his voice lacked conviction. After all, they were standing on an impossible ship. "The temporal drive is what brought us here," the hologram continued. "But using it took most of our power reserves. The ship is currently operating on backup systems, while the main reactor slowly recharges. That's why we needed you to find us at exactly this moment. We have 3 months until the Swarm's scout ship launches. 3 months to prepare humanity for what's coming." Walker turned to Evans. "Get a secure channel to Fleet Command. They need to see this." But before Evans could move, warning lights flashed across the bridge. The hologram's expression changed to one of concern. "We have company. 3 ships just dropped out of FTL travel nearby. Their signatures match known pirate vessels in your time period." Walker's training kicked in. "My ship is out there alone. We need tow." "Commander," the hologram interrupted, "this might be an opportunity. The Paradox's defensive systems are still operational. Perhaps a demonstration would help convince your superiors about the validity of our claims." The bridge's main viewport cleared, showing the space around them. 3 rusty-looking ships were approaching the Stargazer, which looked tiny next to the massive Paradox. Walker could see his crew positioning for a fight, but they were outgunned 3-1. "What are you suggesting?" Walker asked the hologram. "The Paradox has non-lethal options. We can disable the pirates without destroying their ships. It would demonstrate our capabilities while saving your crew." Walker nodded. "Do it." The hologram smiled, and the bridge came fully alive for the first time. Lights blazed, systems hummed to life, and Walker felt a subtle vibration through the deck. On the viewport, he watched as invisible waves of energy pulsed out from the Paradox. When they touched the pirate ships, all 3 vessels suddenly went dark, drifting helplessly in space. "Their systems will reboot in approximately 1 hour," the hologram explained. "No permanent damage, but they won't be a threat." Walker's comm crackled. "Commander," Roger's voice came through, excited and confused. "Sir, did you see that? What just happened?" "I saw it, Mike. Send boarding teams to secure those ships. I'll explain everything soon." Walker turned back to the hologram. "That was impressive, but if the swarm is as powerful as you say, we'll need more than fancy shutdown pulses to stop them." "Of course. That was just the ship's point defense system. Would you like to see our main weapons?" Before Walker could answer, Evans called out from a console he'd been studying. "Commander, I've found something in the ship's logs. It's you, sir." The hologram's expression turned grave as Evans activated a recorded message. A much older version of Walker appeared on the screen. His hair was white, his face bore new scars, but his eyes held the same determination. "If you're seeing this, then the Paradox made it," the older Walker said. "I know how crazy this all seems. I remember standing where you are now, trying to make sense of it all. But everything the ship's AI tells you is true. The swarm is coming, and we have one chance to stop them before they destroy everything we love. The recording continued, showing footage of massive battles, of Earth's cities in flames, of humanity fighting a desperate war against an enemy that seemed unstoppable. The older Walker explained how they'd found the swarm's weakness too late, how the temporal drive was their last desperate gamble. "Don't make the same mistakes we did," the recording concluded. "Don't wait. Don't debate. Act now, while they're still sleeping. The ship knows what to do. Trust it. Trust yourself. Good luck." The bridge was silent after the recording ended. Walker's team looked at him, waiting for his reaction. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of 2 timelines resting on his decisions. "Show me everything," he said to the hologram. "Every weapon, every system, every piece of technology we have. If we're going to convince Fleet Command to launch a preemptive strike against an enemy they've never seen, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with." The hologram nodded, and new displays appeared around them. As Walker and his team began to learn the secrets of humanity's most advanced warship, alarms were already going off in Fleet Command. The Paradox's arrival had changed everything, and there was no going back. In the darkness of space, the massive ship hung silently, its hull reflecting distant starlight. Inside, the future of humanity was taking shape, guided by a commander who was both learning and teaching himself how to fight a war that hadn't happened yet. The countdown to the swarm's awakening continued, marking the time humanity had left to prepare for the greatest fight in its history. Fleet Admiral Marcus stood at the head of the Emergency Council table, his face grim as he studied the holographic projections showing the paradox. 2 weeks had passed since Walker's discovery, and Earth's military leadership had gathered in the underground command center beneath New Geneva to decide humanity's next move. "Let me be clear about what you're suggesting, Commander Walker," the Admiral said, his voice echoing in the silent room. "You want us to launch a preemptive strike against an alien species we've never met, based on information from a ship that claims to be from the future." Walker stood straight, meeting the Admiral's gaze. "The evidence is irrefutable, sir. The Paradox's technology alone proves its origin. Dr. Torres, please explain your findings." Dr. Maria Torres stepped forward, her dark hair streaked with gray. As Earth's leading physicist, her opinion carried weight. "The ship's temporal drive isn't theoretical. It works. We've confirmed it by studying the temporal wake still surrounding the vessel. This ship truly is from our future." The room erupted in murmurs. Admiral Marcus raised his hand for silence. "Even if we accept this, and that's a big if, you're talking about starting a war." "With respect, sir," Walker replied, "we're talking about preventing our extinction." The hologram from the Paradox, which they'd taken to calling guide, appeared in the center of the room. Earth's leaders had grown somewhat used to its presence over the past 2 weeks, though some still flinched at its sudden appearances. "Perhaps a more detailed demonstration is in order," Guide suggested. "The Paradox's memory banks contain full recordings of the first swarm attack. Would you like to see how the war began in our timeline?" Admiral Marcus nodded slowly. The room darkened, and suddenly they were surrounded by a 3-dimensional recreation of Earth space. They watched as massive shapes emerged from FTL travel. Dark, organic-looking ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The recreation showed Earth's defense fleet engaging the swarm. Humanity's best weapons barely scratched the alien vessels. Then they watched in horror as the swarm ships released countless smaller creatures that tore through Earth's defenses like paper. "Stop," Marcus commanded, his face pale. The projection froze on an image of Sydney in flames. "Those creatures, they're biological weapons. The swarm is a collective," Guide explained. "Each drone is part of the whole. They don't communicate. They simply are. Their ships are grown, not built, using the resources they harvest from conquered worlds. In our timeline, humanity lost 2 billion lives in the first day of fighting." Walker stepped forward again. But now we have a chance to strike first, while they're dormant. The Paradox has mapped their location. Their main fleet sleeps in the Carina Nebula, waiting for the scout ship to wake them. We have 2 months before that happens. And what if we fail? Asked General Rivers, her weathered face showing deep concern. If we attack and don't completely destroy them, we'll start the very war we're trying to prevent. That's why we need to commit everything, Walker argued. The Paradox can upgrade our current fleet with its technology. Not to full future specs, but enough to give us a fighting chance. We've already begun modifying the Stargazer as a test case. The hologram brought up new images, showing the Stargazer's transformation. Its weapons now glowed with the same strange energy as the Paradox's systems. The ship's hull had been enhanced with the same self-repairing metal. The modifications are holding stable, Dr. Torres added. We can upgrade our entire defense fleet within 6 weeks if we start now. Admiral Marcus walked around the table, studying the frozen image of the swarm ships. The political fallout from this will be enormous. Starting a war based on future intelligence. Some will call it madness. Better than the alternative, Walker said quietly. He nodded to Guide, who played one final recording. The older Walker appeared again, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him stood a group of children in worn clothing, their faces dirty but determined. These are the last human children, the recording said, born in underground bunkers, never seeing the sun. They're the reason we built the Paradox, the reason we broke the laws of physics and time itself, because humanity deserves better than extinction. These kids deserve a future. The recording ended, leaving the room in heavy silence. Admiral Marcus looked around at the gathered leaders, reading their expressions. Some showed fear, others determination. All understood the weight of the decision before them. If we do this, Marcus said slowly, we do it right. I want every scrap of tactical data from that ship analyzed. Every weakness the swarm has, every strategy that worked against them. We're not just copying your future tech, we're going to improve on it. Walker felt hope rising in his chest. The Paradox's AI can interface with our tactical systems. It can run simulations, help us plan the perfect first strike. Sir, General Rivers interrupted. What about the public? How do we explain this? Marcus smiled grimly. We don't. Not yet. This stays classified at the highest level. As far as the world knows, we're conducting routine fleet exercises. If we succeed, they'll never need to know how close we came to extinction. If we fail, he let the thought hang unfinished. There's something else you should know, Guide said, its holographic form shifting slightly. The Paradox isn't just a warship, it's a seed ship. Explain, Marcus demanded. In its data banks, this ship carries the sum total of human scientific advancement up to the year 2947. Medical cures, clean energy solutions, faster than light travel. Everything humanity achieved before the swarm arrived. It was meant as a backup, in case the worst happened, a way to give humanity a head start rebuilding. The implications hit everyone in the room. Even if they prevented the war, this ship would advance human technology by centuries. The future was literally in their hands. Commander Walker, Marcus said, his decision made. You have operational command of this mission. Work with Guide to begin fleet modifications immediately. I want detailed attack plans on my desk in 48 hours. Yes, sir, Walker replied, saluting. As the meeting broke up, Walker felt the weight of 2 timelines on his shoulders. In one, humanity had faced the swarm unprepared and nearly died. In another, the one he was building, they would be ready. The war that shouldn't exist was about to begin. And this time, humanity would strike first. On the main screen, the countdown continued its relentless march. 2 months until the scout ship would wake. 2 months to prepare humanity for the greatest battle in its history. 2 months to change the future. The massive shipyards orbiting Mars buzzed with activity as workers swarmed over Earth's defense fleet. Red warning lights flashed constantly as engineers installed the Paradox's technology on ship after ship. With just 3 weeks left until the swarm scouts' awakening, every second counted. Walker stood in the Paradox's command center, watching the progress through the main viewport. The ship had become humanity's most advanced teaching tool, its AI working around the clock to train crews in operating the new weapons and defense systems. Status report, he called out to his team. 70% of the fleet has been upgraded, Thompson replied from his station. The chief engineer looked tired but satisfied. The newer ships are accepting the modifications better than expected. The self-repairing hull technology is spreading faster than we projected. Dr. Torres looked up from her console, where complex equations floated in the air. The quantum weaponry is stable across all platforms. We've even managed to improve the efficiency by 13% over the original designs. Walker nodded, allowing himself to feel a moment of pride. In just 6 weeks, humanity had advanced its technology by centuries. But would it be enough? Guide, he called out, and the AI's hologram appeared beside him. Show me the latest simulation results. The air filled with a tactical display showing their planned attack on the swarm's dormant fleet. Hundreds of upgraded Earth ships, led by the Paradox, would emerge from FTL travel directly above the sleeping alien armada. Their first strike would use the Paradox's most powerful weapon, a quantum cascade that would tear apart the fabric of space itself. Success probability has increased to 67%, Guide reported. If we can destroy 40% of their ships in the initial strike, the remaining swarm vessels will be too disorganized to mount an effective defense. And the scout ship? Walker asked. Our advance team is in position, Guide confirmed. A new display showed 5 ships hiding in the debris field near the scout's location. They're ready to prevent its awakening if anything goes wrong with our main assault. Walker's comm unit chimed. Commander, Admiral Marcus's voice came through. We need you in the war room. There's a situation. 15 minutes later, Walker stood before the Admiral and Earth's other military leaders. The atmosphere in the room was tense. We have a leak, Marcus announced without preamble. Someone talked. The public knows about the Paradox. Walker's heart sank. They'd managed to keep the operation secret for weeks, explaining away the fleet modifications as routine upgrades. But now, how bad is it? He asked. General Rivers activated a display showing news feeds from around the world. Headlines screamed about time travel, future wars, and alien invasions. Protests had already begun outside military bases. Half the population thinks we're lying, Rivers said. The other half thinks we're about to start an unjustified war. We have peace groups demanding we attempt communication with the swarm first. That would be suicide, Walker argued. The recordings from my future self prove the swarm doesn't communicate. They consume. That's all they do. We know that, Marcus said heavily. But the public doesn't have access to those records. All they see is us preparing for a massive attack on an unknown species that hasn't done anything to us yet. Then show them, a new voice said. Everyone turned to see Guide's hologram appearing in the center of the room. Show them everything. Walker understood immediately. The full recordings. Not just the tactical data, but the human cost. The refugee camps. The last cities. The children. Marcus shook his head. The panic will be nothing compared to what happens if we don't act. Walker interrupted. Guide, can you broadcast to every screen on Earth? Yes, the AI replied. The Paradox's quantum communications can override any receiving device. We can reach everyone simultaneously. Marcus stood silent for a long moment, weighing the options. Finally, he nodded. Do it. Show them why we have no choice. What followed was 2 hours of unfiltered truth. On every screen on Earth, every phone, television, and computer, people watched the future that had been. They saw the swarm's arrival, the destruction of cities, the death of billions. They saw humanity's desperate last stand, the years of fighting, the final plan to send the paradox back in time. But most importantly, they saw the hope. The upgraded fleet, the new weapons, the chance to prevent it all from happening. When the broadcast ended, the protests outside military bases had transformed into recruitment lines. Public opinion has shifted. Rivers reported, reading the incoming data, 93% support for military action. We're getting volunteers from every nation on Earth. Walker turned to Marcus. Sir, we need to accelerate the timeline. Now that our preparations are public, we have to assume the swarm might have some way of detecting our activities. We can't risk them waking early. Agreed, Marcus said. How soon can the fleet be ready? Walker consulted with guides silently through his neural link. Another piece of future tech they'd adapted. 4 days to complete the essential upgrades. We'll have to finish the rest en route. Make it 3, Marcus ordered. I want every ship ready for FTL jump by then. We hit them hard, we hit them fast, and we don't stop until the threat is eliminated. As the meeting broke up, Walker felt a strange sense of déjà vu. How many times had his future self stood in similar rooms, making similar plans? But this time was different. This time, they weren't fighting for survival. They were fighting to prevent the war entirely. Back aboard the Paradox, Walker walked the now familiar corridors to the ship's heart, a massive chamber housing the temporal drive. The device pulsed with impossible energy, parts of it existing in multiple times at once. This was humanity's greatest achievement, born from their darkest hour. 3 days, he said to Guide's hologram, which had followed him. Can we do it? We already did, Guide replied with a slight smile. In another timeline, one that will now never exist. But the question isn't whether we can do it, it's what will become afterward. This ship carries more than weapons, Commander. It carries a future where humanity reaches for the stars not in fear, but in hope. Walker placed his hand on the temporal drive's housing, feeling the subtle vibrations of power flowing through it. Then let's make sure we live to see that future. Above Mars, the upgraded fleet assembled in formation. Ship after ship took position, their new weapons glowing with quantum energy, their hulls rippling with self-repairing nanomaterials. At their center, the Paradox hung like a sword of Damocles, an impossible ship preparing to prevent an impossible war. The countdown to humanity's first preemptive strike continued its relentless march. 3 days until they would change the future. 3 days until they would wake the sleeping giants. 3 days until they would learn if one temporal paradox could prevent the extinction of the human race. The vast emptiness of the Carina Nebula lit up with the sudden arrival of humanity's fleet. Nearly 300 ships dropped out of FTL travel simultaneously, their upgraded hulls gleaming with quantum energy. At their center, the paradox emerged like an avenging angel, its massive form dwarfing even the largest Earth vessels. Walker stood on the paradox's bridge, his hands gripping the tactical console as he surveyed the scene before them. In the nebula's swirling gases, dark shapes floated motionless. The dormant swarm fleet, each bioship was the size of a small moon, their black surfaces absorbing both light and sensor scans. All ships report ready, Evans announced from his station. Quantum weapons charge. Shield harmonics synchronized. Scout ship status, Walker asked, his voice steady despite the tension. Strike team confirms the scout remains dormant, Guide's hologram reported. They're in position to prevent its awakening. Walker took a deep breath. Everything they'd prepared for came down to this moment. He opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, this is Commander Walker. You know why we're here. In another timeline, these creatures destroyed our world. Today, we make sure that future never happens. Stand ready. He nodded to Guide. The AI's hologram expanded, interfacing directly with the Paradox's systems. The massive ship's quantum core began to pulse with increasing power. Primary weapon charging, Guide announced. Quantum cascade will reach critical mass in 30 seconds. On the tactical display, Walker watched as the fleet moved into attack formation. They'd drilled this hundreds of times in simulations. The Paradox would fire first, its quantum cascade creating a space-time rupture that would tear apart a portion of the swarm fleet. Then, while the survivors were still recovering, the Earth ships would strike from multiple vectors with their upgraded weapons. 20 seconds, Guide counted down. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Movement, Evans shouted. The swarm, they're waking up. Walker's blood ran cold as he watched the massive alien ships beginning to stir. Their black surfaces rippled like liquid metal as dormant systems came online. How? Walker demanded. The scout ship is still sleeping. Unknown, Guide replied, its hologram flickering with rapid calculations. Possibility. They detected our quantum energy signatures. The future tech may have triggered a defense mechanism. Time to full cascade, Walker asked urgently. 15 seconds, but the swarm ships will be combat ready in 10. Walker made his decision instantly. All ships, break formation. Initiate attack pattern Delta. Don't let them coordinate. The Earth fleet scattered just as the first swarm ship opened fire. A beam of dark energy sliced through space where their formation had been seconds before. More swarm vessels were awakening, their organic forms writhing as they prepared for battle. Cascade in 5 seconds, Guide announced. Walker watched as the nearest swarm ships began launching smaller forms, the dreaded drones that had devastated Earth in the original timeline. All ships, activate point defense grids. Don't let those drones reach you. Space lit up with weapons fire. The upgraded Earth ships proved their worth as quantum beams, and energy pulses destroyed wave after wave of drones. But more swarm ships were waking every second. Cascade ready, Guide called out. Fire, Walker ordered. The Paradox's main weapon activated, and reality itself seemed to scream. A tear in spacetime erupted in the heart of the swarm fleet, the quantum cascade ripping apart everything it touched. 3 of the massive bioships were caught in the effect, their forms twisting and fragmenting as space itself shredded them to atoms. But the remaining swarm vessels reacted with terrifying speed. They began to merge, their liquid metal forms flowing together into fewer but larger ships. They're adapting. Dr. Torres called out from her station. The quantum cascade changed their molecular structure. They're becoming resistant. Walker had feared something like this. The swarm's ability to evolve mid-battle had been documented in the future records. But they'd prepared for this too. Guide, initiate Protocol Omega. The AI's hologram smiled grimly. Protocol Omega activated. All ships, synchronize quantum frequencies to the following pattern. As the command went out, every Earth ship's weapons changed tone. The quantum energy they emitted shifted to match the Paradox's unique temporal signature. When they fired again, their beams carried fragments of future time itself. The effect was devastating. Where the combined swarm ships had been shrugging off normal quantum attacks, these temporal-infused beams cut through them like fire through ice. Their adaptive abilities couldn't cope with weapons that existed partially outside of normal time. It's working, Evans shouted. Swarm ships showing signs of molecular breakdown. But the aliens weren't finished. The remaining ships suddenly pulled back, gathering into a tight formation. Their surfaces began to pulse with dark energy. Energy spike. Torres warned. They're trying to open a dimensional rift, probably calling for reinforcements. Not today, Walker said quietly. He opened a channel to the strike team near the scout ship. Execute Plan B now. Near the sleeping scout, 5 Earth ships activated special devices provided by the Paradox. Together, they created a temporal lock, a bubble of frozen time that trapped the scout ship in perfect stasis. It would never wake, never send its signal to the rest of the swarm species. Back in the main battle, Walker watched as the remaining swarm ships struggled to open their rift. But without the scout's signal, their efforts were uncoordinated, weakened. All ships, Walker commanded, "Full attack. Everything you have. Don't let them recover." The entire Earth fleet opened fire simultaneously. Hundreds of temporal quantum beams struck the swarm formation from all directions. Unable to adapt quickly enough, unable to call for help, the massive bioships began to break apart. "Guide," Walker said, "charge the cascade one more time. Let's finish this." The Paradox's weapon powered up again, drawing on its reserves of future energy. The quantum cascade fired into the heart of the dying swarm fleet, and this time there was no escape. The fabric of space-time ripped open one final time, consuming the remaining alien ships in a maelstrom of temporal energy. When the light faded, the nebula was empty except for the Earth fleet. Debris from the swarm ships dissolved into nothingness, their impossible biology unable to survive without the collective consciousness controlling it. Walker slumped in his command chair, exhaustion finally catching up with him. Casualties. 12 ships lost, Evans reported, his voice thick with emotion. But their crews managed to eject. Rescue operations are underway. The scout ship remains in temporal stasis, Guide confirmed. It will never wake. The signal will never be sent. The future we came from, it no longer exists. Walker looked around the bridge of the impossible warship that had changed humanity's destiny. "So what happens now? To the Paradox, to you?" Guide's hologram smiled. "The timeline has changed. The future where we were created no longer exists, but we do exist, here and now. The Paradox carries centuries of human advancement, medical cures, clean energy, faster than light travel. Everything humanity achieved before the swarm arrived. We can give your people a better future than the one we came from." "A future without the swarm," Walker said, finally allowing himself to smile. "A future where those children get to see the sun." Above them, the nebula's gases swirled peacefully, showing no sign of the battle that had just prevented a war that would never happen. The Paradox hung among the Earth fleet, a warship that shouldn't exist, but did, and in existing, had changed everything. Humanity had faced its greatest test and emerged victorious. And now, with the knowledge and technology of centuries at their disposal, they could reach for the stars not in desperation, but in hope. The future was theirs to write.
Commander Jack Stone stood at the main viewport of humanity's first deep space diplomatic station, his eyes fixed on the approaching alien ship. It was huge, at least 5 times larger than the biggest human vessel ever built. The surface gleamed with a dark metallic sheen that seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. "Thorn warship now within visual range," announced Lieutenant Maria Reed from her station. Her voice remained steady, but Jack noticed how her fingers tapped nervously against the console. "They're requesting docking permission." Jack nodded, keeping his face neutral. "Granted. Alert the welcome team." 6 months ago, humanity had made its first contact with the Galactic Council, a loose alliance of 27 spacefaring species. Most had been friendly, curious about these newcomers from a planet called Earth. But the Thorns were different. The Thorns ruled the Council through strength and fear. They came from what other species called a death world, a planet with high gravity, extreme temperatures, and countless deadly predators. These conditions had shaped the Thorns into living weapons, 10 feet tall, covered in natural armor, plates with 4 powerful arms ending in razor-sharp claws. And now they wanted to meet humans face to face. "Remember," Jack said, turning to address his team, "we don't tell them about Earth's classification. Not yet. This was the plan. The Thorns believe humans were like the other soft world species, physically weak and easily dominated. Intelligence from friendly aliens suggested the Thorns respected only strength, and saw other beings as either useful tools or potential food. Dr. Ben Miller, the team's xenobiologist, stepped forward. "Sir, I've studied their biology. They'll sense fear through smell. We need to stay calm." "I know," Jack replied. "That's why everyone here was chosen for this mission." He straightened his uniform and squared his shoulders. "Let's go meet our new friends." The station's main airlock was large enough to welcome ships from various species. As the massive doors slid open, the human delegation got their first real look at the Thorns. General Cragg, leader of the Thorn delegation, ducked to enter the room. Behind him came 5 warriors, each moving with surprising grace despite their size and bulk. Their bodies were covered in overlapping plates that looked like dark green stone. 4 glowing eyes were set deep in their angular heads, and clicking. Mandibles moved constantly around mouth parts that dripped with what looked like oil. Humans, General Cragg's voice boomed through his translation device. We meet at last. Jack stepped forward and bowed slightly, not too deep, as that would signal submission. General Cragg, welcome to Friendship Station. We're honored by your visit. The Thorn's upper eyes narrowed. Honored? Yes, you should be. Your species is new to space. Weak, small. He leaned down until his face was just feet from Jack's. In need of protection, Jack could smell the Thorn's breath, like hot metal and something rotting. He didn't step back. Actually, Jack replied with a smile, we're quite interested in trade and cultural exchange. Earth has much to offer the Galactic Council. General. Cragg made a sound like stones grinding together, their version of laughter. What could your kind offer except service? Perhaps as food? The human delegation tensed, but Jack kept his calm. Why don't we discuss this in the conference room? We've prepared refreshments suitable for your biology. The Thorns followed the humans through curved corridors to a large room with a round table. The chairs on one side were reinforced to handle the Thorns' weight. As they sat, Jack noticed how the aliens constantly scanned the room, looking for threats or weaknesses. Your station is adequate, General Cragg said, his mandibles clicking rapidly. Though poorly defended, one Thorn scout ship could destroy it. We prefer to focus on diplomacy rather than weapons, Maria said smoothly. A luxury of the protected, sneered a younger Thorn warrior named Vex. Soft-worlders always hide behind words when they lack claws. The meeting continued with thinly veiled threats from the Thorns and careful responses from the humans. Jack could see the aliens growing frustrated by the humans' refusal to show fear. Then it happened. Vex, clearly trying to intimidate, suddenly smashed his clawed fist onto the table. The reinforced metal dented under the impact. Your species will serve the Thorns, he growled. Resistance is... Before he could finish, Vex swung again, aiming to crack the table further. But this time, Jack moved, with speed that startled everyone. In the room, Jack's hand shot out and caught the Thorn's wrist mid-swing. He didn't try to match the alien's strength. Instead, he used leverage, turning the force of the blow aside. Silence fell over the room. The Thorns stared at Jack, their glowing eyes wide with shock. The human delegation held their breath. Jack slowly released Vex's arm and stepped back. On Earth, he said calmly. Interrupting a diplomatic meeting like that would be considered extremely rude. General Cragg rose to his full height, looming over the humans. For a moment it seemed violence would erupt. Then, unexpectedly, he made that grinding stone laugh again. Interesting, he said, studying Jack with all 4 eyes. You moved. Quickly. For a soft-worlder. Jack shrugged. Just reflexes. The meeting resumed, but with a different tone. The Thorns asked more questions about Earth, about human physiology, about their history. Jack answered carefully, revealing enough to be truthful but holding back key details. When the Thorn delegation finally prepared to leave, General Cragg pulled Jack aside. Your world, he said quietly, mandibles almost still. What classification is it? Jack looked up at the massive alien. It was time for the truth. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, General, he said. Higher gravity than your homeworld. Extreme temperatures ranging from 125 to 136 degrees Fahrenheit. Oxygen levels that would be toxic to most council species. Thousands of predator species. Constant natural disasters. General Cragg's outer plates shifted slightly, the Thorn equivalent of raised eyebrows. You lie. Jack shook his head. Check your own council records. We didn't volunteer the information because we didn't want special treatment. If this is true, Cragg said slowly, then you are... Deathworlders, Jack finished for him. Just like you. Back on their ship, the Thorns gathered in the command center. General Cragg paced while his warriors watched silently. Pull the council records on planet Earth, he ordered. Full biological and geological scan. Minutes later, the data appeared. On their screens, the Thorns stared in disbelief. It cannot be, whispered Vex. These soft, small creatures from such a world? The data was clear. Earth's gravity was 1.1 times that of the Thorn homeworld. The temperature variations were more extreme. The atmospheric oxygen content would cause Thorn lungs to burn. And the predator diversity was unmatched in the known galaxy. How do they survive without natural armor? Another warrior asked. Without claws or venom? General Cragg zoomed in on images of Earth, humans climbing frozen mountains, diving into crushing ocean depths, running across burning deserts. They adapted differently, he said slowly. Not with armor or strength, but with endurance, with tool-making, with cooperation. He closed the display and turned to his warriors. His voice was low, but every Thorn heard him clearly. We have made a terrible mistake, General Cragg said. We thought we were meeting new prey. Instead, we have found another apex predator. Back on the station, Jack rejoined his team. What do you think they'll do now? Maria asked. Jack watched as the Thorn ship detached from the station. They'll report to their leaders. They'll research us more carefully. And then, Dr. Miller prompted. Jack's expression was grim but determined. And then we'll find out if two apex predator species can share a galaxy without going to war. 3 weeks after first contact with the Thorns, Commander Jack Stone sat in his office aboard Friendship Station reviewing reports. Sleep had become a luxury, as news about humans spread through the Galactic Council. Some species reached out, with friendly messages. Others withdrew their diplomats, suddenly wary of these newcomers from a death world. The door chimed, and Lieutenant Maria Reed entered. Her usual neat appearance was replaced by obvious exhaustion. More messages from Earth, she said, handing him a tablet. They want updates every 6 hours now. Jack sighed. Tell them nothing has changed. The Thorns haven't responded since they left. That's what worries everyone, Maria replied, dropping into a chair. The Thorns have never been this quiet. Usually they make demands immediately. Jack was about to respond when the station's alert. System activated. Thorn vessel approaching, announced the AI system. Size classification, Dreadnought. Jack and Maria exchanged worried glances. A Dreadnought was not a diplomatic vessel. It was a warship. All personnel to alert stations, Jack ordered through the comm system. No aggressive actions, I repeat, no aggressive actions. They rushed to the command center, arriving just as the massive Thorn ship came into view. It dwarfed their previous visitor, bristling with weapons that could reduce Friendship Station to dust in seconds. They're hailing us, said Communications Officer Tom Harris. Jack straightened his uniform. On screen, the display flickered to life, showing not just General Cragg but a circle of older, more heavily armored Thorns. Their plates were scarred and worn, showing battles survived and enemies defeated. Humans, said one of the older Thorns, his voice deeper than Cragg's. I am Elder Draz, leader of the Thorn High Command. Jack bowed slightly. Elder Draz, I am Commander Stone. How may we assist you? The Elder Thorn's mandibles clicked rapidly. Our scientists have verified General Cragg's report. Your world is indeed a death world. This changes matters. We hope for peaceful relations with all Council species, Jack said carefully. Elder, Draz made the grinding stone laugh that seemed common among Thorns. Peace is earned, human, not given. He leaned forward. For 10,000 cycles, the Thorns have been the undisputed apex predators of known space. No species has challenged our position. We're not looking to challenge anyone, Jack began, but Elder Draz cut him off with a wave of his clawed hand. Yet your very existence is a challenge, the Elder said. A species from a world more deadly than our own, without our natural advantages. The question all Thorns now ask is, how dangerous are humans really? The command center fell silent as the humans watched the screen, waiting. There is only one way to answer this question, Elder Draz continued. The war challenge. General Cragg stepped forward. Elder, perhaps. The decision is made, snapped Elder Draz. The war challenge will determine if humans are worthy of respect or subjugation. Jack kept his expression neutral, though his mind raced. What exactly is this war challenge? Elder Draz's 4 eyes gleamed. A series of trials to test strength, endurance, intelligence, and combat skills. It is how we have settled disputes between species for millennia without resorting to full warfare. And if we refuse, then you declare your weakness, Elder Draz said simply. And weak species serve the strong. That is the way of the galaxy. Jack looked around at his team. Their faces showed concern but also determination. He turned back to the screen. We need to consult with Earth government before... You have 14 solar cycles to prepare, Elder Draz interrupted. The challenge will take place on the neutral moon of Keldor. Bring 50 of your best warriors. His mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. If humans truly are Deathworlders, prove it. The transmission ended, leaving the humans staring at a blank screen. Well, Maria said after a moment, that could have gone worse. Tom let out a nervous laugh. How exactly? They're basically forcing us into gladiator games. Jack moved to the central console and opened a direct line to Earth. Maybe. But they're also giving us a chance to earn respect without a war. He looked at his team. And that's an opportunity we can't waste. 12 days later, Jack walked through a converted military base in the Arizona desert. Around him, 48 men and women, each selected from elite military units around Earth, trained under the hot sun. They ran obstacle courses wearing weighted vests. They fought hand-to-hand in sandy pits. They solved complex tactical problems while under physical stress. Dr. Ben Miller jogged up beside Jack, tablet in hand. We've analyzed everything we know about Thorn biology, he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. They're stronger than us, no question. Those armor plates can stop most impacts, but they have weaknesses. Tell me, Jack said, watching as a woman named Lisa Black flipped a man twice her size onto his back using leverage instead of strength. 3 big ones, Ben said, showing Jack diagrams of Thorn anatomy. First, their endurance is poor. They evolved for short, intense bursts of activity, not marathons. Second, water is problematic for them. Their plates absorb it and become heavy. And third, they think linearly. They struggle with creative problem solving. Jack nodded. So we focus on endurance challenges, use water to our advantage, and outthink them. Exactly, Ben agreed. But there's something else you should see. He led Jack to a large warehouse where engineers worked on what looked like body armor. Since we can't grow natural armor plates, Ben explained, we're making the next best thing. A technician demonstrated the new suits, made from advanced composites and impact-absorbing materials. They weren't as tough as Thorn plates, but would help level the playing field. It's not just about matching their strengths, Ben said. It's about maximizing our own. Jack picked up one of the helmets, feeling its light weight. Will it be enough? It has to be, Ben replied solemnly. The Thorn sent us the full rules of the war challenge yesterday. If we lose, Earth becomes a protected world under Thorn control. Jack set down the helmet. And if we win, we get a seat on the High Council and full autonomy. The stakes couldn't be higher. Jack looked around at the training humans, seeing determination in every face. How are the final selections coming? He asked. Down to the last few spots, Ben said. Tom Harris will lead the physical team, Lisa Black for the technical challenges. We're building balanced teams for each trial. Jack nodded. Good. The Thorns expect us to compete like them, individual warriors seeking glory. But that's not how humans became apex predators on Earth. No, Ben agreed with a small smile. We did it through cooperation. On the final night before departure, Jack stood under the stars looking up at the sky. Tomorrow they would leave for Keldor Moon, where the war challenge would take place. The fate of humanity's place in the galaxy rested on their shoulders. Maria approached, holding 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Jack. Admiral Wilson called, she said. Half the Galactic Council has requested to observe the challenge. This has become bigger than just humans versus thorns. Jack sipped his coffee. The other Deathworld species are worried. With good reason, Maria replied. If the thorns can subjugate us, they'll go after the others next. They stood in silence for a moment, watching as team members completed their final preparations. Do we have a chance? Maria finally asked. Jack turned to look at the training grounds where humans from different countries, cultures, and backgrounds work together seamlessly. The Thorns think this challenge will prove they're the apex predators, he said quietly. But they've forgotten something important about predators. What's that? Jack's expression hardened with determination. The most dangerous ones don't always have the biggest claws or the strongest jaws. Sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one you don't recognize as a threat until it's too late. In orbit around the Thorn homeworld, General Cragg stood before Elder Draz in the High Command chamber. The humans have accepted the challenge, Cragg reported. They prepare as we speak. Elder Draz's scarred mandibles clicked slowly. Good. This will settle matters quickly. Choose our champions wisely, General. I want no mistakes. General Cragg hesitated. Elder, I have studied these humans further. They are unusual. Perhaps we should. Are you questioning the High Command? Elder, Draz interrupted, his voice dangerous. No, Elder, Cragg said, bowing his head. I merely suggest caution. These humans don't fight like other species. Elder Draz dismissed his concern with a wave. No species has ever defeated the Thorns in a war challenge. These humans, despite their Deathworld origins, will be no different. General Cragg bowed and left, but doubt lingered in his mind. He had seen how Jack moved that day on the station, with speed no soft-worlder should possess. He had studied recordings of humans on their planet, performing feats that would challenge even Thorn warriors. The war challenge would answer the question that now consumed the Galactic Council. In a contest between different kinds of Deathworld predators, which would prove supreme. Keldor Moon hung in space like a jagged gray pearl. Its surface, sculpted by ancient asteroid impacts and modified by Galactic Council engineers, now featured 7 distinct environments for the war challenge. The human ship approached slowly, dwarfed by the massive vessels already in orbit. Representatives from 23 species had arrived to witness the contest between Thorns and humans. Most expected to see the newcomers humiliated. Inside the ship, Jack Stone addressed the 50. Human champions won last time. Remember your training, he said, looking at each face in turn. Remember that we're not just fighting for ourselves, but for Earth's future among the stars. Tom Harris, leader of the physical team, nodded grimly. The former Special Forces operative stood like a statue, calm and focused. Beside him, Lisa Black checked her equipment again, her mind already working through the technical challenges ahead. The Thorns expect us to fight as individuals, Jack continued. That's their way. Our strength is in working together. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. They're stronger, they have natural armor, but we have something they've forgotten about over centuries of domination. What's that, Commander? Asked one of the younger team members. Jack's expression hardened. Hunger. The drive that pushed humans to the top of Earth's food chain without claws or fangs or armor. The refusal to accept defeat. The ship docked at Keldor Station, a neutral facility floating above the moon's surface. As the humans disembarked, they got their first look at the full Thorn delegation. 50 Thorn warriors stood in perfect formation, their dark green armor plates gleaming under the station lights. Each stood at least 10 feet tall, and their forearms ended in wicked claws. They looked unbeatable. Behind them stood Elder Draz with the Council observers, a collection of beings from across the galaxy, each unique in form. Some floated in bubbles of special atmosphere. Others wore environmental suits. All watched the humans with intense curiosity. Jack led his team forward. The humans wore simple gray uniforms, their new protective gear packed away for now. Compared to the Thorns, they looked small and fragile. Elder Draz stepped forward, his ancient plates bearing the scars of countless battles. "Humans," his voice boomed through the translation system. "You stand before the Galactic Council to prove your worth through the war challenge." His 4 eyes scanned the human team. 7 trials, 7 terrains, victory to the species that wins 4 challenges. Jack bowed slightly. "We accept the terms, Elder." Elder Draz seemed surprised by the human's confidence. "The first challenge begins in 1 hour. Strength conquest in the mountain terrain." As the group separated to prepare, General Cragg approached Jack. "Your warriors seem calm," Cragg observed, mandibles clicking slowly. Jack smiled. "We're just focused." Cragg leaned closer. "The first challenge favors raw strength, our natural advantage." "We'll see," Jack replied simply. The mountain terrain was a jagged landscape of sharp peaks and deep valleys. Giant boulders dotted the area, some larger than transport vehicles. A red flag stood atop the highest peak. The rules were simple. The first team to place their own flag at the summit while defending the route would win. 10 humans faced 10 thorns at the starting line. Tom Harris led the human team, his face set in grim determination. When the signal sounded, the thorns immediately charged forward, using their powerful limbs to climb the rocky slopes with ease. The humans split into 3 groups, a strategy that confused the watching aliens. "What are they doing?" murmured one council observer to another. "They should stay together against such powerful opponents." Elder Draz watched from the observation platform, mandibles clicking in satisfaction as his warriors quickly took the lead. "See how the thorns dominate the terrain," he said to the other council members. "This challenge will end quickly." But then something unexpected happened. While 2 human groups engaged the thorns directly, not trying to outmuscle them but delaying them with quick, coordinated movements, the third group took a different route entirely. They climbed a seemingly impassable cliff face using specialized techniques, bypassing the main confrontation. "Interesting," General Cragg muttered, watching through magnified viewers. "They aren't trying to match our strength." The thorns, focused on brute force advancement, didn't notice the flanking group until they were nearly at the summit. When they did, 4 thorn warriors broke off to intercept them. What followed was a display of different combat styles. The thorns attacked individually, each seeking personal glory as their culture valued. The humans fought as a coordinated unit, protecting each other, creating openings that teammates could exploit. In the end, superior thorn strength won out. A massive warrior named Grax planted the thorn flag at the summit, letting out a roar of triumph that echoed across the mountains. "First victory to the thorns," announced Elder Draz, his voice smug. As expected. But General Cragg noticed something concerning. While the thorns had won, they were breathing heavily, their movements slower than before. The humans, though defeated, seemed barely winded. 1-0, Jack said quietly to his team as they regrouped. "Exactly as we anticipated. The second challenge. Survival endurance," Elder Draz announced 2 hours later. "Teams must cross the desert terrain carrying supply packs. The desert stretched for miles, a scorching wasteland of sand and rock. The air temperature registered at 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Each team member carried a pack weighing 60 pounds. The thorns hoisted theirs effortlessly, their powerful frames making the weight seem insignificant. Lisa Black led the human team for this challenge, implementing the strategy they had practiced on Earth. "Pace yourselves," she reminded them. "This isn't a sprint." When the signal sounded, the thorns surged ahead, their long legs covering ground quickly. Within 20 minutes, they were far ahead of the humans, who maintained a steady, methodical pace. Elder Draz watched with satisfaction. "The gap widens," he noted to the council observers. "The humans cannot match thorn speed." But General Cragg remained silent, watching more carefully. Halfway through the course, the first thorn warrior began to falter. Their biology, evolved for short bursts of power, wasn't designed for sustained effort. The desert heat seeped through their armor plates, cooking them from within. One by one, thorn warriors slowed, some collapsing to their knees. Their heavy armor, an advantage in combat, became a liability in the burning heat. Meanwhile, the humans kept their steady pace. When they passed the first fallen thorn, Lisa paused to offer water, which the warrior refused with a snarl. By the 3/4 mark, only 3 thorns remained standing. The humans, though sweating profusely, had not lost a single team member, and they crossed the finish line with their full team intact. The thorns managed to get only 2 warriors across before the time limit expired. "Victory to the humans," announced the council moderator, shock evident in their voice. Elder Draz's mandibles clicked furiously. "A minor setback," he growled. "The desert favors endurance over strength." Jack simply nodded to General Cragg, who was staring at the humans with new respect. 1-1, Jack said to his team as they rehydrated. "Now they know we're serious." That evening, as both teams recovered for the next day's challenges, the council observers buzzed with conversation. "Did you see how they moved together?" asked a floating being from a gas giant planet. "Their strategy was unexpected," agreed a crystalline entity. "They compensated for physical disadvantages with coordination." Across the station in the thorn preparation area, General Cragg addressed his warriors. "Do not underestimate these humans," he warned. "They are smaller, softer, but they think differently than we do." Elder Draz entered, his posture rigid with anger. "One lucky victory does not make them equals," he snapped. "Tomorrow's challenges will prove Thorn superiority." But doubt had crept into the minds of the Thorn warriors. They had seen humans work together in ways Thorns never considered. They had witnessed an endurance that defied expectations. In the human quarters, Jack reviewed plans for the next challenges with his team leaders. "The aquatic challenge is tomorrow," Lisa said. "Then the aerial maneuvering test." Tom nodded. "The Thorns hate water. Their plates get waterlogged. And they can't fly any better than we can," added Lisa. "It comes down to adaptation and tool use." Jack looked at the determined faces around him. "We're not just fighting for Earth," he reminded them. "We're showing the galaxy a different way to be apex predators." "Without claws or armor," Tom said, with a small smile. "But with something just as powerful," Jack finished. "The ability to work together." Across the station, General Cragg stood alone at a viewport watching the stars. For thousands of years, Thorns had dominated through individual strength and fearsome natural weapons. Now, for the first time, he wondered if there was another path to becoming apex predators. A path that humans had somehow discovered. Dawn broke over Keldor Moon as both teams prepared for the third challenge. The atmosphere in the station had changed overnight. What had begun as a certain Thorn victory in the minds of most observers was now an uncertain contest. Humans had proven themselves worthy opponents. The aquatic arena waited below, a vast artificial lake with floating platforms, underwater passages, and a central island where the objective flag stood. Teams would start from opposite shores and race to capture the flag. "Third challenge, aquatic conquest," announced the council moderator. "Each team will use only natural abilities and approved breathing equipment." The Thorns stood at their starting position, clearly uncomfortable. Their massive bodies were built for land combat, not swimming. Water was known to seep between their armor plates, weighing them down. The human team, led by Lisa Black, wore only simple swimwear and breathing masks. Their bodies, smooth and streamlined compared to the bulky Thorns, seemed almost designed for water movement. Elder Draz watched, with narrowed eyes. "The water favors their form," he growled to General Cragg, "but our warriors will prevail through strength." Cragg said nothing, his attention fixed on the humans' calm preparation. When the signal sounded, both teams entered the water. The difference was immediately apparent. The Thorns splashed and thrashed, their powerful limbs fighting against the liquid rather than working with it. 3 warriors sank immediately, unused to their suddenly heavier bodies. The humans, by contrast, slipped into the water with barely a ripple. They moved in a tight formation, swimming with efficient strokes that propelled them forward rapidly. "Look how they move," murmured one council observer to another, "like they were born in water." Elder Draz's mandibles clicked in frustration as the humans quickly established a commanding lead. By the time the first Thorn warrior reached the central island, 3 humans were already there, working together to secure the flag. The Thorn attacked alone, swinging powerful claws at the nearest human, but water slowed his movements, making his strength less effective. The humans darted around him, using the water's resistance to their advantage. When the flag was finally captured and raised, it bore the human emblem. "Victory to the humans," the moderator announced. 2-1 in favor of the humans. For the first time, shocked murmurs spread through the alien observers. No species had ever taken the lead against the Thorns in a war challenge. Elder Draz's voice cut through the babble. "The water is an unnatural environment," he snapped. "The next challenge will demonstrate true Thorn superiority." As the human team exited the water, Jack met them with nods of approval. "Well done," he said simply. "But the hardest challenges are still ahead." Lisa wrung water from her hair. "The Thorns look worried." "Good," Tom replied. "They should be." The 4th challenge took place in a massive enclosed dome. Inside, artificial gravity could be adjusted, creating an aerial environment where neither species had a natural advantage. "Aerial maneuvering challenge," announced the moderator. Teams must navigate the floating obstacles to reach the central platform. Each team was provided with identical wing packs, simple devices that enabled limited flight. The humans examined theirs carefully, while the Thorns simply strapped them on. "This challenge tests adaptation to an alien environment," Jack explained to his team. "Neither humans nor Thorns evolved to fly." Tom led this challenge, gathering his team for final instructions. "Remember the simulations," he said. "Conserve power. Work in pairs." When the signal sounded, both teams activated their wing packs and launched into the air. Initially, the Thorns seemed to have an advantage, their strong limbs giving them powerful thrust. But soon their lack of coordination became evident. Thorns bumped into each other, fighting for position in the air. Several collided with obstacles, spinning out of control. Their approach was still individual, each warrior seeking personal glory. The humans flew in formation like birds migrating. When one needed to rest, another would fly close, creating an air current that made flight easier. They navigated the obstacles together, calling out warnings and directions. "Fascinating," murmured an Insectoid Council member. "They're using aerodynamic principles to assist each other." The challenge ended in an unexpected tie. Both teams reached the central platform almost simultaneously, with the Thorns' raw power matching the humans' superior technique. "The score remains 2-1 in favor of the humans," the moderator announced. Elder Draz seemed relieved to avoid another defeat, but General Craig looked troubled. He approached Jack as the teams returned to the preparation area. "Your species," Craig said quietly, "fights differently than any we have faced." Jack nodded. "On Earth, humans weren't always the strongest creatures. We had to develop other advantages." "Like cooperation," Craig observed. "Among other things," Jack replied. The 5th challenge would test more than physical abilities. In a sterile white room, both teams faced a series of alien puzzles, ancient devices recovered from long-extinct civilizations. "Intelligence challenge," and the moderator explained. "Teams must solve these puzzles to unlock the central chamber." Lisa led the human team, her mind already analyzing the strange symbols and mechanisms. The Thorns approached with confidence. They were not just warriors, but came from a species with advanced technology. The difference in approach became clear immediately. The Thorns worked on individual puzzles, each attempting to solve one completely before moving to another. The humans spread out, examining all puzzles briefly, then regrouped to share observations. "These symbols match those over there," Lisa pointed out. "I think they're connected." Another team member nodded. "And this sequence repeats in the 3rd puzzle." While the Thorns made steady progress through brute mental effort, the humans looked for patterns and connections between the puzzles. When one human got stuck, another would offer a fresh perspective. By the halfway mark, the humans had solved 3 puzzles to the Thorns' 2. Elder Draz paced nervously as he watched. They're communicating constantly, he said to Crag. Sharing information. Crag nodded. A different kind of strength. The final puzzle required combining elements from all previous solutions, something the humans discovered quickly due to their collaborative approach. The Thorns, working separately, missed this connection until too late. When the central chamber unlocked, the humans were already inside. Victory to the humans, announced the moderator. 3-1 in favor of the humans. The observation area erupted in excited chittering and buzzing as council species discussed the unprecedented results. No species had ever been one victory away from defeating the Thorns in a war challenge. Elder Draz's mandibles clicked rapidly in anger and disbelief. This cannot be, he growled. These small, soft creatures cannot defeat us. General Crag watched the celebrating humans with new understanding. Yet they are, he said quietly, by fighting in ways we never considered. That evening, the human team gathered in their quarters, atmosphere tense with anticipation. One more victory would secure their place in the galaxy. 2 challenges remain, Jack said. Tactical warfare simulation and adaptive combat. Tom looked up from cleaning his equipment. The Thorns will be desperate now. They'll throw everything at us. Good, Lisa replied. Desperation leads to mistakes. Jack nodded. We still have our secret weapon. What's that? Asked a younger team member. Jack smiled slightly. The thing that made humans Earth's apex predators without claws or armor or venom. The thing the Thorns have forgotten after centuries of dominance. Creativity, Lisa said. Adaptability, added Tom. Both, Jack agreed. And something more. The ability to see possibilities where others see only obstacles. Across the station, the Thorn team was receiving a furious lecture from Elder Draz. You disgrace our ancestors, he roared, defeated by creatures half our size. General Crag stepped forward. Elder, with respect, we must change our approach. How? Elder Draz demanded. Crag hesitated, then spoke words no Thorn warrior had uttered. In generations, we must learn from our enemy. The humans work together in ways we have forgotten. The room fell silent. To suggest learning from another species was nearly taboo among Thorns. Elder Draz's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. We will win through Thorn strength alone, as we always have. He turned to his warriors. Tomorrow, show no mercy. The future of our dominance depends on it. But as the Thorn warriors prepared for the next day's challenges, many found themselves watching recordings of the humans, studying how they worked together, communicated constantly, and adapted to each situation. Something was changing, not just in the war challenge, but in how the galaxy's apex predators viewed themselves and others. The 6th day of the war challenge dawned with an electric tension in the air. Spectators from across the galaxy crowded the observation decks. News of the unexpected human success had spread through the Galactic Council. Many species had traveled to Keldor Moon overnight, eager to witness what could be a historic moment. The humans needed only one more victory to win the war challenge. No species had ever defeated the Thorns in their own contest. 6th challenge, Tactical Warfare Simulation, announced the council moderator. Teams will command virtual forces in a full-scale battle scenario. The arena for this challenge was a massive holographic chamber. When both teams entered, they found themselves surrounded by a detailed projection of an alien landscape. Rolling hills, dense forests, and a wide river dividing the battlefield. Tom Harris led the human team, his military experience making him the natural choice. The Thorns were led by General Crag himself, stepping in to ensure victory. The objective is simple, the moderator explained. Capture the enemy headquarters while defending your own. Each team commands identical virtual forces. As the simulation began, both teams took their positions at control stations. The Thorns immediately deployed their forces in an aggressive frontal assault, a direct application of overwhelming strength, their traditional approach. Tom studied the battlefield carefully before making his first move. They expect us to mirror their approach, he said to his team, so we won't. Instead of matching the Thorn advance, the humans split their forces into small, mobile units. They used the terrain to their advantage, hiding in forests, crossing at unexpected points of the river, and avoiding direct confrontation with larger Thorn units. Elder Draz watched from the observation deck, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "Why don't they fight properly?" A crystalline council member turned its faceted body toward the Thorn Elder. "Perhaps your definition of properly is too narrow," it chimed. On the battlefield, the Thorn forces pushed forward with overwhelming power, capturing territory quickly, but they left their supply lines exposed. The human forces targeted these vulnerabilities, cutting off Thorn units from reinforcements and resources. "They're avoiding our strength," General Cragg realized, adjusting his strategy. But it was too late. The humans had already encircled the Thorn headquarters with small teams that attacked simultaneously from multiple directions. As the simulation ended, the results appeared on the main display. Thorn headquarters captured, human victory. The chamber fell silent. Then, an explosion of sounds as the alien observers reacted with shock, excitement, and disbelief. "Victory to the humans," the moderator announced. 4-2. The war challenge is decided. For the first time in known galactic history, the Thorns had been defeated. Elder Draz stood motionless, his 4 eyes fixed on the scoreboard. General Cragg approached Jack, extending one massive clawed hand. "Your species has earned its place among the stars," Cragg said formally. "The Thorns acknowledge your victory." Jack shook the alien's hand. "Thank you, General. We look forward to working together as equals." But Elder Draz wasn't ready to accept defeat. He pushed through the crowd, 4 arms gesturing wildly. "This cannot stand," he roared. "The final challenge must still be completed." The moderator looked confused. "The humans have already secured enough victories. Tradition demands all 7 challenges be completed," Elder Draz insisted. "The adaptive combat trial will proceed as scheduled." Jack glanced at his team, tired but proud. "We'll compete," he said. "We came to finish this properly." The final arena was unlike the others, a circular chamber with a floor that shifted and changed randomly. Walls rose and fell, platforms appeared and disappeared, and environmental conditions fluctuated from extreme heat to cold, from dry to drenched. "Adaptive combat," the moderator explained. "The environment changes every 2 minutes. Teams must adapt instantly or fail." This time both leaders entered the arena personally. Jack wore the specialized adaptive armor developed on Earth. Elder Draz insisted on taking General Cragg's place, his ancient armor plates bearing the marks of 1,000 victories. "I will show these humans the true meaning of Thorn superiority," Elder Draz growled. When the signal sounded, the arena activated. First came intense heat, then sudden cold. The floor tilted sharply, sending combatants sliding. Walls appeared randomly, separating team members. The Thorns fought as they always had, with incredible individual strength and ferocity. Elder Draz led by example, smashing through obstacles and attacking any human who crossed his path. But as the environment kept changing, the fundamental difference between the species became clear to everyone watching. The Thorns struggled to adjust to each new condition. Their tactics remained the same regardless of circumstances: apply more strength, fight harder. The humans switched strategies constantly. When separated, they found ways to communicate through the chaos. When facing stronger opponents, they used the changing environment to their advantage. "Look how they adapt," murmured a council observer. "It's as though they expected the unexpected." Jack faced Elder Draz in the center of the arena as the final environmental shift occurred. Gravity suddenly dropped to near zero. The massive Thorn Elder found himself floating awkwardly, his heavy armor a liability in low gravity. Jack, by contrast, adjusted quickly, using small movements to control his direction. The other humans did the same, coordinating to surround the disoriented Thorns. "Impossible," Elder Draz snarled, swinging wildly as he rotated in the low gravity. "You cannot defeat us." Jack moved closer, his expression calm. "It's not about defeating you, Elder. It's about surviving and thriving in a changing universe." As time expired, the final score flashed on displays around the arena. Humans, 5. Thorns, 2. The war challenge was over. 1 week later, the Galactic Council convened a special session on their central world. For the first time, a human delegation stood on the floor of the Grand Chamber. Representatives from all member species filled the tiered seating, their attention fixed on the historic moment. The war challenge has been completed, announced the High Counselor, a being of pure energy contained in a specialized field. The results have been certified and recorded. Humanity has earned its place as a full member of the Galactic Council, with all rights and privileges. Jack stepped forward to accept the formal recognition. Beside him stood Admiral Wilson, who had arrived from Earth for the ceremony. From the Thorn section came General Cragg, now wearing the insignia of High Commander. Elder Draz had been removed from the High Command after his defeat, a traditional consequence of failure in Thorn culture. Humans of Earth, Cragg said formally, the Thorns acknowledge you as equals. Your approach to survival was unexpected but effective. Jack nodded. Different paths can lead to the same destination, General. The High Counselor continued. This historic moment marks a new understanding in our galactic community. For too long, we have measured species by a single standard of strength. The humans have shown us that adaptation, cooperation, and intelligence are equally valid paths to becoming apex predators. After the ceremony, Jack found General Cragg waiting in a quiet corridor. Your victory has changed things, Cragg said. Many Thorns are uncomfortable with change. Change is what humans do best, Jack replied. It's how we survived on Earth. Cragg's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The Council is expanding joint operations, mixed species crews for exploration, and security. He paused. They want Thorns and humans to work together. Jack smiled. Combining our strengths instead of testing them against each other? That sounds like progress. It is unfamiliar, Cragg admitted, but perhaps necessary. The galaxy is vast with threats unknown even to the Thorns. On Earth we have a saying, Jack said. The most dangerous predator isn't always the one with the biggest claws. And what is the most dangerous predator? Cragg asked. The one that can change, Jack answered. The one that sees cooperation as strength, not weakness. Cragg extended, his hand in the human gesture he had learned. Then perhaps together, humans and Thorns will become something new, something stronger than either alone. As they shook hands, representatives from other Council species watched with interest. The alliance between two Deathworld species, one evolved for strength, one for adaptability, promised to reshape galactic politics for generations to come. In the Council chamber, Admiral Wilson addressed the assembled delegates. Humanity doesn't seek to replace any species as dominant. We seek partnership. On Earth, we learned that apex predators who fight constantly for dominance eventually destroy themselves. Those who find balance survive. The High Counselor's energy field pulsed with approval. Perhaps this is the lesson all apex species must eventually learn. Not how to win every battle, but how to avoid unnecessary wars altogether. As the session ended, news of the human victory and the new Human-Thorn alliance spread across the galaxy. On distant worlds, other Deathworld species watched with interest. On Earth, celebrations erupted as humanity realized its place among the stars was secure. And on Keldor Moon, where it had all happened, the war challenge arenas stood empty, perhaps for the final time. For the first time in galactic history, two apex predator species had found a better path forward than endless competition. Not war, but understanding.